John Boynton Priestley was a British novelist, broadcaster and screenwriter, born in 1894 in Manningham, Bradford, the son of headmaster Jonathan Priestley and Emma Holt. Educated at Bellevue Grammar School, he left school at age 16 to work as a junior clerk at the wool firm Hellman Co. in Bradford. He left the firm to serve in World War I, was severely wounded in 1916, he returned to service in 1918, and was demobilized in 1919. After the war, he received a university degree from Trinity Hall, Cambridge. In 1921, he married Emily Tempest, but she died of cancer in 1925. A year later, he married Jane Wyndham Lewis, but divorced her in 1953 to marry archaeologist and writer Jacquetta Hawkes. He died of pneumonia in 1984 at Alveston. He began publishing in 1927, his The Good Companions from 1929 being his first success. In 1952, he published the collection The Other Place, which we shall be reviewing today. The Other Place, as the narrator arrives at a place in the country called Hubberholm, where he goes for the summer. There, he meets a stranger who, after some conversation, admits that he is quite disappointed with the place because he thought it might be some place he had been looking for some time. The man explains how, as an engineer, he had to stay at a small town called Blackley, a spot which was depressing and unbearable in its meanness and emotionlessness, but then he saved a baronet from getting run over. Sir Alaric Fodden showed him his gratitude by making him look at a black stone and walk through a door in the bookshelf out into a sunny garden. This is The Other Place, a cheerful place somewhere else, with no worries, when he met both people new and old, and it is all hunky and dory, but after some time he can no longer find the place, and has been trying to find it ever since, without success. The Grey Ones is a very Lovecraftian story, where a man is haunted by what he had seen when, by accident, he found himself at a conference whose members soon stopped being human, becoming translucent toads with shiny eyes, who were talking of a social change they would bring about in the doomed species, aka humanity, being a very intriguing take on the topic. Uncle Phil on TV has the Gregson family buy a TV set off of the insurance for their recently departed Uncle Phil. But the family starts seeing Uncle Phil show up on different programs, even going on interviews, and being very belligerent and passive-aggressive when talking about his family, as if they didn't hear him the entire time, until they decide to get rid of their TV. Guest of honor has Sir Bernard Clipter on his way to hold a speech in front of an industrial association, but the speech begins to unravel as the entire crowd surges at him and stuffs him into a coffin, screaming and laughing all the while. Look after the strange girl has Mark Denbow visiting at an upper-class estate, talking to the residents, which would not be surprising, except that Mark had somehow been sent 50 years back in time, being considered quite weird by everyone he meets, eventually being asked to take care of Anne, a confused girl who came to the wrong house, though of course she'd say that given the circumstances. The statues has reporter Walter Volley, who all of a sudden starts seeing visions of gigantic monumental statues about the city which do not really exist, and he makes the mistake of telling others about it. The Leadington incident has George Copthorne going for an outing, but as he is invited by the onlookers to give a speech, but as he prepares to give his speech, he notices the entire crowd consists of either living dead or people walking in their sleep. The story is somewhat of a retread of Guest of Honor. Mr. Sternbury's tale concerns Mr. Sternbury, a small-town schoolmaster, abandoned by his wife, who tells a chance guest at a pub the story of the time he saw a visitor from the future trying desperately to leave his own time after some indescribable catastrophe began to wipe out the last remnants of humanity, and as you can imagine, it screwed up Mr. Sternbury but good. Night Sequence has a husband and wife winding up in a ditch with their car and going to a nearby house for shelter, where they meet the occupants, each having a fling at the same time, only to wake up the next day with only an old caretaker overseeing the house, and the two people they had met being presented in paintings from a century hence. The story is a bit stronger than Look After the Strange Girl in some areas, but also feels like a bit of a retread. The stories are varied, most of them much more cynical than the title story, but all are good and worth your time.